Who are you walking with? Genesis 5, verse 23 and 24. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Who are you walking with? Who is your friend? Who is or are your companions? Who are your friends? Friends are vehicles for good or bad. Genesis 5, verse 23 and 24. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Before we understand this scripture more, we need to know that whatever is dominant or paramount influences us in many ways, as indicated in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well: bad company corrupts good habits. Enoch is one of the briefest and outstanding biographies you can ever find in the Bible. He lived for 365 years, but all is summarized in one sentence and revealing the secret of how he lived. Life spent believing God, being humble, being holy, being righteous. Scripture says this of associations. Exodus 23, verse 2. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. That is Enoch. He walked with God. Who are you walking with? Don't be so naive. Bad company corrupts good habits. How are you living? Are you humble? Are you holy? Are you righteous? Do you follow a multitude to do evil? Scripture says this of associations. Psalms 1, verses 1 through 6. Blessed, or happy, fortunate, prosper, and enviable, is the man who walks and lives not in the counsel of the ungodly, or follows their advice, their plans and purposes, nor stands, is submissive and inactive, in the path where sinners walk, nor sits down, to relax and rest, where the scornful and the mockers gather. But his delight and desire are in the law of the Lord, and on his law, the precepts, the instructions, the teaching of God, he habitually meditates, ponders and studies, by day and by night. And he shall be like a tree firmly planted and tended by the streams of water, ready to bring forth its fruit in its season. Its leaf shall also not fade or wither, and everything he does shall prosper and come to maturity. Not so the wicked, those disobedient and living without God are not so. But they are like the chaff, worthless, dead, without substance, which the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked, those disobedient and living without God, shall not stand, be justified, in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous, those who are upright and in right standing with God. For the Lord knows and is fully acquainted with the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly, those living outside God's will, shall perish, end in ruin and come to naught. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well: bad company corrupts good habits. Scripture says this of associations. Proverbs 1, verses 7 through 15. The reverent and worshipful fear of the Lord is the beginning and principal and choice part of knowledge, its starting point and its essence. But fools despise skillful and godly wisdom, instruction, and discipline. My son, hear the instruction of your father. Reject not nor forsake the teaching of your mother. For they are a victor's chaplet, garland, of grace upon your head, and chains and pendants of gold worn by kings for your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause, and show that his piety is in vain. Let us swallow them up alive as does Sheol, and whole as those who go down into the pit of the dead. We shall find and take all kinds of precious goods when our victims are put out of the way. We shall fill our houses with plunder, Throw in your lot with us and be a sworn brother and comrade. Let us all have one person common. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Restrain your foot from their path. To walk with God like Enoch, one has to be humble. Who are you walking with? Don't be so naive. Bad company corrupts good habits. Are you still lying? 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well. Bad company corrupts good habits. Scripture says this of associations. Proverbs 4 verse 14. I have taught you in the way of skillful and godly wisdom, which is comprehensive insight into the ways and purposes of God. I have led you in paths of uprightness. When you walk, your steps shall not be hampered. Your path will be clear and open, and when you run, you shall not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not go on it. Turn from it and pass on. For they cannot sleep unless they have caused trouble or vexation. Their sleep is taken away unless they have caused someone to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the uncompromisingly just and righteous is like the light of dawn that shines more and more, brighter and clearer, until it reaches its full strength and glory in the perfect day to be prepared. To walk with God like Enoch, one has to be holy. Who are you walking with? Don't be so naive. Bad company corrupts good habits. Are you in the company of the unholy? 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well. Bad company corrupts good habits. Scripture says this of associations. 1 Corinthians 5 verse 11. But now I write to you not to associate with anyone who bears the name of Christian brother if he is known to be guilty of immorality or greed, or is an idolater, whose soul is devoted to any object that usurps the place of God, or is a person with foul tongue, railing, abusing, reviling, slandering, or is a drunkard, or a swindler, or a robber. No, you must not so much as eat with such a person. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well. Bad company corrupts good habits. Scripture says this of associations. Proverbs 24 verse 1. Be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them. For their minds plot oppression and devise violence, and their lips talk of causing trouble and vexation. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33. But don't be so naive. There's another saying you know well. Bad company corrupts good habits. Scripture says this of associations. 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not make mismatched alliances with them or come under a different yoke with them, inconsistent with your faith. For what partnership have right living and right standing with God with iniquity and lawlessness? Or how can light have fellowship with darkness? To walk with God like Enoch, one has to forsake evil company. Who are you walking with? Don't be so naive. Bad company corrupts good habits. What can be said of you and me? Who is walking with us? Bad company corrupts good habits. Who are you walking with? Genesis 5 verse 23 and 24. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. God bless you.